gonna go. So I think we should just get on with the. So if you have seen the thumbnail slash you have seen the community post, and I'm once again doing Danganronpa yakuza arc. I wanted to finish it last year, but fuck you, school and exams. Anyway, chapter 4. The next day, Natsumi was suddenly quiet. She said scarcely a word to Hajime in between classes, and she seemed to be distracted, pre-cooperate. Perhaps their previous conversation had impacted her more than he thought. Hajime noticed her glance down at her watch often throughout the day, which was odd. Did she have some kind of appointment? During lunch, Hajime was confronted. What's the deal with the watch? He asked flat out. While Natsumi was staring down so on Rich down no on Rich. What are you and talking about? She mumbled as she chewed her food. Don't talk with your mouth. Don't talk with your mouth phone. I'm talking about how you can keep checking your watch every 5 minutes. Do you have some kind of appointment or something? He interrogated. Natsumi gulped down her food and jerked her iced tea to wash it down with a sigh. It's none of your business. It's not like your boyfriend or anything. So, lay off. She snapped at him before getting up out of her seat and to toss her remaining food of scraps in the garbage and heading back to the class whatever it was she wasn't telling Hazame. Once again, it was the end of the day. Natsumi left the classroom without a word to Hazame. He didn't think of much of it. It was just Natsumi being her usual weird self. Hazame shrugged it off and packed up his things. On his way out of the building, Hazime shrugged it off and packed his things. On his way out of the building, he noticed Sato carrying something into the building. In her right hand, she held what looked like some kind of musical instrument case. If you remember correctly, Sato was a member of the photography club, but perhaps he had taken up a new hobby. Either way, it wasn't his business, and he wasn't about to start off a small talk with her. When Hazime exited the building, he noticed a red-headed girl waiting by the school gates. He hadn't exchanged words with her before, but they were still somewhat acquaintance when she saw him approaching. She looked away, pretending she hadn't seen him, hoping he would just pass by. Hazime stopped in his tracks. For some reason, something told him it was a good idea to talk to this girl. Maybe he could patch things up since Natsume was too stubborn to do it herself. It worth a shot. Hey, it's my hero, isn't it? My name's Hazime. Hazime Hinata, he said, introducing himself as politely as possible. My hero glanced up at him and didn't say anything for a long moment. You're the boyfriend from before, Natsumi's boyfriend or whatever, she muttered with a stuttered hint of disdain. She looked at him skeptically. Wow, I'm definitely not her boyfriend, trust me on that. Hazime stammered blushed. Awkwardly, we're more like friends, or I'm not even sure. It's more like, just classmates. Oh, I see, I guess you can't stand her either, then? I don't see how anyone could. My hero sighed with a sad smile on her face, as if reminding of her painful memories. I'm not so sure if I would go that far. She's a handful, but I don't think she has as bad as you might think. She really tries to make herself look a lot more dangerous than she actually is. In fact, I gotten her to cool it with this drama, and she's staring with you and your friend. My hero perked up a bit and her eyes went. Wait, You actually gotten her to listen to you? I don't think you realized how big of a deal this is. Are you sure there isn't anything going between you two? No. I mean, yes? More question marks. No, look, I just told you her that acting this way isn't gonna get her anywhere since needs to cut it out. Otherwise she gonna get herself kicked out of school. Honestly, I think she listens to me. She is way too proud of her to apologize to herself, but I don't think she will be causing any more problems for you. Hazme extends a very shocked and frightened my hero. Reflects my hero gaze. If that's the case, it's about time someone talks some sense into her. Thanks for that. Doing that. This has really been wailing on me. Oh, and Sato too. In fact, you should really tell her what you told me. She is really straight out, Boba. I am really worried about her. In fact, you should really tell her what you told me. She's really stressed out over this entire. I'm really worried about her. How's my number? Oh yeah, I just saw her. She should still be in the building. We can go and talk to her together. She was carrying her cello or whatever instrument it was. So I'm guessing she's practicing right now or something. He declared while Maria just looked confused. Sato doesn't play an instrument, at least not that I know of. She has never shown in the instrument in music. Are you sure you saw her with instrument? Mahiro puzzled. Hajime froze a moment. They seemed to slow down. Wait a minute. Hajime, do you have some kind of appointment or something? Natsumi. No, it's none of your business. It's not like your boyfriend or anything. Could it be? I'm almost went to cross your period, my hero. Just to see the look on your face. It would say if something were happen to those hands. Oh, Sato, if you touch my hero, I swear I will prevent and you Natsumi. Hajime's legs cried themselves and he turned to my hero and bolted. Instead, as fast as he could, my hero was left standing peaceless. Hey, what the hell? What is going on? My hero called, but Hajime didn't take the time to explain it to her. The hair on his neck was standing up. All of his intuition was telling him that Natsumi was in serious danger. Natsumi stood in the music room with crossed arms and she stamped her foot. Immediately, she felt a jitter from someone. Her hands would stop shaking and she hands tightly to keep it still. Keep it together, you fucking kuzu here. Damn it. You shouldn't be afraid of some thirsty lesbian. I'm not saying that word, it's lesbians. God, I hope you doesn't fake me. She threw herself. She had received Sato's invitation and she wasn't about to push out now. The music room was relatively basic. There was one stage of rehearsals, a few tables speaking the aforementioned that could be used frequently by the situation. The walls were decorated with music notes, that kind of decor on one who expected to see. There was a fish tank at the far end of the room and next to the window, wherever the overlooked that the wooden area behind the school. Natsumi almost jumped as the door of the music room said open. She turned to see the seaweed-haired girl herself, standing there looking unaffected and distant, more so than usual. She closed the door behind her and stamped it locked it with Natsumi. Seeing Natsumi put on her typical hangout demure place, her hands and on her hips. I was wondering if you were gonna show off. So, What's the deal, huh? I thought you invited me to here to talk. What are you gonna do? How are we gonna settle this? The old-fashioned way? I'm not afraid of throwing hands with Maggie bitches like you. Just try not to cry when I beat you down. Natsumi gloomed, shaking her ankles. Sato just turned her way, and she had called a wailful stare. She told her, sizing Natsumi up. I told you in the notes, we're gonna end this here right now. You will never threaten my hero again, she said in a dry, almost monotone voice. Whatever makes you think, I still give you a shit about that raggy cut rag that you dragged around. You just prohibited that you should do the smart thing and just walk away. Now before you really piss me off. Natsumi spat with a smug grin on her face. Sato walked over the table and that had large black instrument case over it. Natsumi even noticed it was extremely out of place in a music room. You just love to run your mouth, don't you, Natsumi? Because you think you're innocent and you think your perhaps family name can protect you, but you're dead fucking wrong. That's Sato said with the disturbing chuckle as she opened the box. She pulled out something that was not an instrument. At least, no, a musical one. Not a musical one. It was a metal baseball bat. Natsumi's heart dropped into her stomach as she saw it. She almost couldn't compare it at first. Her face of confidence dropped into immediately. The fear could be seen in her eyes. She took a step back. Whoa, wait, what the fuck? What the hell are you doing with that? Are you crazy? Her previous bravado was totally absent from her voice. What happened to the cocky attitude to the viewers? You look scared, Natsumi. Are you now getting a taste of what powerless feels like? It's not so sweet, is it? Sato chuckled, taking a few steps towards Natsumi, dragging the bat on the floor beside her with a loud metallic scraping noise. Sato was currently standing between Natsumi and exactly a key phrase dreamed came over Natsumi. Stay the fuck away from me, you psycho, Natsumi screamed as far as she could. Her heart was tumbling in her chest. Sit. This bitch wasn't to kill me. Her mind raced. Sato quickly launched at her, swinging the bat. Natsumi ducked out of the way just in time to avoid it. The bat smashed into the large corridor, spilling a fish and rocks and what all over the floor. Rock and water all over the floor. Natsumi screamed to clear a way through. She ended up slipping around the slick floor. Help! Somebody! Help! She's trying to kill me! She screamed at the top of her lungs as tears welled up in her eyes. Sato just lunged and looked down at Natsumi, resting the bat on the shoulder. Scream all you want, Natsumi. It wouldn't do any good. This is the most soundproof room in the building. Top of the line. That's why music sound of the line. That's why the music doesn't disrupt other classes. I picked this room for a reason. No one is gonna come to rescue you, no matter how much you scream. None of your little yakuza flunkies can save you either. She elaborated manically as she stepped towards Natsumi. The sound of a rocking chair braced her. Natsumi backed away, still on the floor, as Sato closed on her. The cat, like a cat covering its prey. Listen, Sato, it wasn't serious. I wasn't just messing around. I never planned to go on my hero. I don't even have that kind of attention! She screamed as she rolled out of the way to avoid a deadly blow at the bat. Tears of terror flow freely about to avoid a deadly blow at the bat. Tears of terror flowed freely down Natsumi's cheeks. Fucking shit! Sato, please don't do this. I don't want to die. We've friends, remember? Natsumi crackled, Nesrin holding her hands in front of her face in a vine, attempting to protect herself. Protect herself from Sato. Sato was losing her compression as well. The girl was not a trained killer. This fight was taking long enough for the reality of her actions to begin setting in. Her adolescence had gotten her this far, but she was starting to realize what exactly she had committed to. Her eyes were manic and her fragrance but dramatic. This was no turning back now. Shut the fuck up, Natsumi. Don't give me that crap. You were never a friend and you're just a vile, evil piece of shit. And I'm going to put a stop to you. She shrugged, but as she did, Natsumi grabbed a stool and threw it at her. In the moment it took Sato to run from the incoming object, Natsumi was able to slip away and make a break for the door. She grabbed the handle fixing. Fuck! Open! She screamed in her mind. Her thoughts were streamed up as Sato caught up to her. Through her interruptions as Natsumi caught up to her, the swaying of her head somehow, Natsumi interested ducked and caused the bat to shatter the glass window. The bat was gently stuck into the window and Natsumi seized the opportunity and elbowed Sato in the ribs, causing her to lose her grip on the bat. It fell to the floor with a clang and Natsumi kicked away everything. Everything happened so fast, but their adrenaline-fueled mind. It was all in slow motion. Natsumi realized this was her one chance to save herself. She leaned forward to the window and took in deep breath to give her loudest scream. Help! She attempted to call out, but as she did, Sato had clamped over her mouth, muffling her voice. Sato was inwardly panicking. Her whole plan was falling apart. This was taking too long. In her blind fury, she had just accidentally undone the entire point of packing this room in the first place. It was no longer soundproof. She had to end this now. Her wrapped her other arm over Natsumi's neck as locked and she squeezed tightly on it. Natsumi's eyes widened as the other girl considered her windpipe and also began to cut the blood flow of her brain. Natsumi chucked, attempted to gasp for air, and she made this frenzied growling noise. Her head fell around and reached up to try to pull on Sato's arm. Her face was burnt red, and her tears straightened down her cheeks. As she was chuckling, her struggle granted weak. However, the lack of blood flow made her increase light and dizzy. She soon went limp in Sato's arms. Natsumi had fell to her sides and she lost consciousness. Sato leapt and go, and Natsumi clutched to the floor, banging her head on the floor. Sato looked down at what she had done, and she felt ill, an overwhelming sense of nausea. had come over her. Had she really just killed another person with her own bare hands? No less? No, it couldn't be. She came down next to Natsumi, and the oncoming girl leapt out, with pay gaps in her sleep, followed by a few more ragged breaths. At irregular intervals, Sarah couldn't see her chest as rise and flow with each breath. The girl was still alive, but she would continue for at least a few more minutes. This is no going back now, Sarah told herself, and over this is for my hero. She hunted over where the bat and had been kicked. She was like a zombie. She felt detached from everything that was happening around her. She kept over and picked it up, and she started to look back at Natsumi, lying by the floor, but she was something else. It was an arm reaching through the broken window. It had rolled up with sleeves. The hand found in the lock and flipped it. The door slipped open. There's Hajime, and he stood gasping for breath. He had mere moments to take in a full situation. Natsumi was on the floor, bleeding from her head. This room was smashed up. Sato was holding a bat. At first he was hit was an unrelenting wave of dread and anxiousness, but collected himself as he dashed over to the kneel by Natsumi to see if she was still alive. He could talk relief quickly that she was breathing. Thank God, he thought. Then he heard a voice. Out of my way! It was Sato's voice. Hajime had never seen anyone with a face like her before. She was gauseless, terrifying, and completely unhinged. She walked to Hajime, holding the bat in both hands, terrifying. Don't get in my way! I have to do this. She cried as she frowned down her face. Hajime placed himself between her and Natsumi, without thinking why he would put his life on the line. Without thinking life on the line for this brat. Observing defective girl was behind him. No, you don't have to do this. This is wrong. Think about what you're doing. I have thought about this. I've known her way longer than you have. She's a scumbag who knows nothing but hurt people. What are you? You're just a lapdog. You're just defending her because she probably... I'm not gonna say that word. I'm not gonna say it. I am not going to say... Do I have to say this? Hold on, let me just discuss this with my editor. And apparently he said yes. Fuck you, or something. Get out of my way! She screamed as she smoked the bat at Hajime. She didn't aim for his head because she didn't actually want to kill him. She hit him square in the ribs, breaking at least two of them. Hajime grunted at an anguish and clung to his head. Pain erupted across through his body. He dropped to his knees but he didn't move for his fate. You made me do this. She cried out. I just move aside. I have to protect my hero. Dog, just let me explain. Everything will be fine. Just hear me out. Hajime grunted while catching his bleeding side. He made a breakthrough to this girl. Stop defending her. You fucking idiot. She cried out, raising the bat high above her head. She has to die. She cried out as she swung the bat downward towards Natsumi's head. Hajime couldn't let that. She was trying to angel. It's to swing it. Trying to angle it to swing to his left, missing him eternally and hitting Natsumi. She was getting desperate, running out of time. Plus, she was probably realizing that if she got caught now and expelled, she would no longer be able to protect my hero from this perfect threat. There really was nothing that Hazumi could say to her at this point to call her off. Things had already gone too far. Hazumi did the only thing he could. He lifted his left and over his head, shifted to place his arm in front of the bat. The metal weapon came down on his arm, which absorbed most of the force. As it slammed into the format, it snapped his ulama on impact. The bat was ridiculously redirected. He sank to the right, missing Natsumi and completely. However, Hazume's left arm was now broken. Pain was just beginning to shoot through it. Pain was dizzying and interrupted. He didn't know it would be able to remain in consequences much longer. Sato pulled the bat up again, readying it. I don't want to hurt you. You just hurt Pawn. Please, just get out of my way. She stuttered as she, in her eyes, grown more panicked. Hazume didn't say anything. He could barely think straight, so he instructed raising his right arm, well protect to sacrifice it as well. He winced in pain and looked up at her through blurry vision. She just cast down at him, and in disbelief. Why would he go through so much pain for this girl? He barely knows her. She hesitated and lowered her bat. Slowly, and then a voice. Sato? A gentle voice. It was unmistakably the red-haired girl stood in the doorways, looking in the moment terrified at her friend. Sato stared at her in a moment of pure shock. Before Hazume could see what happened, my hero was embracing Sato, crying into her chest while the clattering of the bat could be heard. Dropping to the floor, Hazume let out a sigh of relief, and that was it for him. He couldn't maintain consciousness anymore. He closed the floor next to the door, and Natsume and his rope and fainted to darkness. Oof, that was chapter 4, but if you think this bit is gonna end here, no it's not. 5. Hazume dripped out of his daze, deep in slumber, and slowly opened his eyes. He was straining into a bright light and being down into his and slowly opened his eyes. He was staring into a bright light beaming down into his eyes. When his eyes adjusted, however, he realized it was just a faucet cleaning light. As his voice cleared, he looked around the room. The walls was pasted blue color, and there were a few empty beds next to his. Hazmi realized he was wearing a hospital gown. His left arm was in a cast. Gaze had been warmed out. His admorbed with the extra patching on his right side, where his ribs had been broken. He was pretty bad safe, but he was alive. He looked down to the front of the bed. He turned to his left and realized there was someone standing over him. It made him jolt awake with sound, and he didn't recognize them. It was a sort of boy, roughly his age. He had a very short hair and a nice suit. He had uniform demeanor, and he looked down at Hajime with something bordering on a skull. You're awake. It's about fucking time. This name is Hajime Hinata. The name is Hajime Hinata, right? The boy asked Hazumi, nodding and rubbing his head. Yeah, I was out of for a while, wasn't I? I can feel. Wait a minute. Hazumi sat up, stared at the bed. His eyes waited. Where's Natsumi? Is he alright? What happened after I got knocked out? Hazumi blurted out and he had around a dozen questions to ask. Cool your jets, Holy said. Natsumi is fine, he's only had minor injuries. You're the one who got your ass kicked. He stated bluntly. Hazumi sighed and replied, Thank God. He never thought he would be so relieved to hear that Natsumi was safe. That nightmare was over. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Good. So, who are you exactly? He asked, still puzzled why this random guy was in his room with him. He had possibly been watching him while he slept. If you would just shut the fuck up for 2 seconds, I could explain everything to you. Now just zip it and listen to me. The boy said in an irritated tone of voice that judged by his attitude. Hazumi was being to guess who he was. The boy clearly cleared his throat and stirred his shirt. The boy said in an irritated tone of voice. Judging by the twins, Hazumi was being to gaze as he was. The boy cleared his throat and straightened his suit. I'm Furigo Kuzuryu, Natsumi's older brother. I got to Hope Peak Academy and Natsumi told me you're a friend of hers, so I'm sure she mentioned me at some point. So I probably don't need to go into details. Hazumi suddenly remembered looking at Furigo properly at some point. Being the Hope Peak fanboy that he was, Hazumi was at least familiar with all the ultimates attending the academy, but for some reason didn't put 2 and 2 together. Furigo, the ultimate gangster. So this was the big bro that Natsumi was obsessed over. He was a bit they did Furigo dirty, shorter than Hazumi expected, but he had slightly intimidating presence to him, or at least honestly and observing one. Furigo continued talking on a purpose surrounding town. As a reference for his family and as Natsumi's brother, I would like to formally thank you for protecting my sister's life. As such, the family owes you a debt of service to you repay your actions. My family owes you a debt of service to repay your actions. The way Furigo said it felt a little rehearsed, as if his stamp was taken from some kind of official business template. Reciting of a case like this, the debt of service must words. If you ask for something crazy like my sister's hand in marriage, I have to break your other arm. Got it? He said, holding a chained face straightening. I don't think you have to worry about that. I'm good. Azumi said, almost laughing out loud at the proposition. He frowned for a moment. What kind of things he could ask for? Money, perhaps? Thought that would be cheapen his act of heroism. He then remembered something. What about that girl, Sato? What's going to happen to her? He asked, feeling uneased, his stomach frozen, crazed, released on his eyes. What? You mean the girl that snapped your arm? What does that have to do with anything? He asked, wondering if Hazumi was implying he wanted to extreme personal revenge against her or something. I just need to know. Please, Hazumi asked, looking into Furigo's eyes. Instantly, Furigo sighed and packed his way down to the foot of the bed and back, thinking for a moment. Look, the girl committed a serious crime against my family. She tried to fucking murder the daughter of the oil farmer. Do you realize the gravity of that? Right now, She has been expelled from the academy and put under police custody. She's being transferred to a security mental health facility. After she is released from there, who knows? But I can say that she is going to face real repercussion. Not just her, but probably her family too. They'll probably be forced to pay up, reparations and whatnot. And that means to going into serious debt. We knew that wasn't going into debt would mean for a girl like Sato. That kind of life it would lead her to race into pleasant. He couldn't imagine that kind of things a girl like Sato. That kind of life it would her with no pleasant. He couldn't imagine the kind of things a girl like her might be forced to do in order to repay her debt. Sato made some very poor decisions, but there was no way she deserved fate like that. Look, Freak, I'm going to make my request. Okay, I'm gonna sound strange to you, but I want you to hear me out. Hazumi said in a dramatic in his voice. Freaker's eyes widened. Wait, Holy said, please tell me you're not going to ask. Thank you, he groaned. That Sato girl has gone through enough. She's already going to have an experience on her records and a criminal history. She has mental issues that she needs to have checked out. At this point, she is no longer a threat to your family. She isn't going to be a problem again. This was an insult, including, can you just let this go? Furiga was a little flabbergasted. Are you fucking shitting me? Didn't she damage your hand or something? You're protecting the girl who almost killed you and tried to kill my sister. What the fuck? Question mark. You're going to waste your request for that? Question mark. Hazumi didn't back down and encourage. Look, to be totally honest, Natsumi didn't a lot of trace in this whole problem. That's an understatement. This is just a really messed up situation that never should have happened, but in the end everything turned out fine, right? I don't think Sato deserves or any more torment, so please, can you do this for me or not? He asked, gaze, looked at Fuhika. Fuhika sighed and turned away, putting his hand in his pocket. You're a weird guy, Hinata. I can see how you are able to put up with my sister. You might just be the ultimate fucking pushover. I have never heard of anything like this happening before, but I will see what I can do. They're probably still going to insist on keeping an eye on Sato for a little while. Just to make sure she doesn't try anything crazy or come after Natsumi again. But I will try to make sure no harm comes to her, and the fucking promise. We take those seriously in my family, Hazumi breathed sighed of relief and smiled on the first time in a while. That was a burn off his chest. Oh, for sure. Thanks, Fuhiko, he said immediately, and Fuhiko searched the back of his head and looked up at the ceiling. Yeah, whatever. It is your city request. Oh, and before I go here, take this. I haven't opened it yet. It's for your eyes only. He tossed Hazumi a letter. Fuhiko shuddered from Hazumi's being training and opened the letter. He opened it up and it was seriously handwritten. He expected it just as some kind of generic type of thank you letter, maybe a gift of the McDonald's. Maybe a gift card to McDonald's, but this was written in ink with a very good calligraphy, no less. It was read as following. To the young man Hazumi Hinata, allow me to be the first to say that your great deeds and service to our family will not be soon forgotten. Without your heroism, Natsumi, the light of my life, could be very well have been lost forever. You quickly and accounted her and self-sacrifice saved her life. Words cannot express my gratitude. It is my belief that fate has brought you into my daughter's life for a reason, and so I make this proposition to you. Whether you humbly request, as you are already well and insured with my daughter, and have proved your loyalty to her, I ask that you continue to watch over her during her time in the academy. I ask you to do this not only as her friend but a promotional association to the Kuzurio family. I have even taken the liberty to provide you with a personal training to build you into a more ideal protector and comparator. If you should arrange to this understanding, if you should take up this offer, you would be elected and generally mostly salaried for your service. This offer does not permanent behind to your family, nor does it. This offer does not permanently bind to your family, nor does it require any sort of lifetime or long-term commitments on your part. Rest assured, such an arrangement would be fully translated, would only be witnessed withstanding during your time at Hope's Peak, and would not commit you to becoming a full-fledged member of the Kujaryu clan. However, the door to our family will be open to you in the future if you should take regret. Regardless of what you chose, you will forever be seen as a friend to our Saverly organization. For what you have been done today, I am closing. I would like to exact an invitation for you to accompany my children's on their summer relax in Osaka this year, and to attend our annual winter festival in Sendal as a VIP. It is my hope that we may soon meet face to face. With a great regard, Oyabama Masuryu Kuzurio. I have probably butchered that name. Hazumi could barely believe what he had just read. His hands were shaking and he dropped the letter in his lap. This letter was from the Oyabama, the leader of the nation's largest yakuza family, and he had personally recommended Hazumi and take the time written him this letter. It was a lot to take in soundly. He'd been terrified or honored. What had Hazumi gotten himself into? His association with Natsumi had opened a new possibility, but they were utterly terrifying. He put his hands on his mouth, seriously great with his information, and he had been given his youth thought where the interruptions has door to his room slowly opened. He searched the letter under his blanket. Natsumi walked into the room and she looked different than usual. She was a total mess. She had bangs wrapped around her head, and from when she had banged into the floor, her left pinky and pinky ring finger was wrapped with cloth, presumably from slapping them in the fight. Other than that, she seemed to not have any serious injuries. However, her eyes were puffy and red. It was clear she had been crying a lot. She was walking over Hazumi and she looked down at him, sniffling a bit, putting on a dramatic face, shifting her bottom lips. Well, go ahead. Tell me what a fucking idiot I am. She managed to get out, holding her tears of impotence and sadness. Well, actually, I was just going to ask if you were alright, but Hazumi was immediately yelled for Natsumi. Shut up! Just shut up! She screamed as her tears began to start down her cheeks. Why? Why are you still acting so nice? The fuck is wrong with you? She asked in an almost weeping voice, covering her face with her hands to hide her crying. I am just fucked up. That's all I am. Entire thing is all my fault. I mean, look at you. She could have killed you and just hadn't noticed do it with you. Hazumi could close his eyes and smile of a bit. Yeah, I can't really argue with that. This is pretty much all your fault. It's all happened because you kept running your mouth and threatening people. You kept on insulating the situation and almost got both of us killed, he said. He said cheerfully. Natsumi's face was flustered, hot tears blurred her voice on flowing down her cheeks. His words felt like a stab to her guts. She didn't expect him to be so blunt about it. It hurt, but she needed to hear it. Hazumi wasn't going to pull any punches. I know that, I get it. So you hate my guts now, right? You don't have to talk to me anymore. I never said that, Natsumi. That's not what I want. Yeah, you messed up big time, but you made a mistake and you're gonna have to live with it. But that doesn't mean that you deserve to die or that you're an evil person. You can still learn from this. Natsumi stood there for a moment and suddenly ran up to him and wrapped her arms around his torso. She pressed his face in his chest and sobbing with what was said of her that he never expected to see. This was a side of her that he never expected to see. He couldn't imagine exactly what was going through this girl's mind. He couldn't really imagine what was going through his mind, why she was crying. Hell, Natsumi couldn't pinpoint. Natsumi couldn't pinpoint on the singular reason. Hell, Natsumi couldn't pinpoint on a singular reason. All of her bottle of emotions came pouring out this moment. Hazumi was embarrassed on her 10 long minutes until her cries died down. Then he muttered quietly, try not to get mustard on me. Natsumi looked up at him with a grumbly look on her face. You asked, she muttered, wiping her nose with her sleeves. Hazumi felt strange situation in his chest. Felt a strange sense of chest. It was the same sensation he got when he was around Chiaki. This is why first time he felt way around Natsumi. Natsumi sat down in her chair and leaned her torso on the bed beside Hazumi. Her face rested on her crossed arm as she leaned on the bed. She snuggled at the same way she did on the balcony at school. My brother chewed me out pretty bad. I don't think I've ever seen him so mad. Well, that's expected. Why, she was a wreck when she entered Hazumi's room. That explains why she was such a wreck in Hazumi's room. He had never seen her in this discarding and make it. It was as if every scene every once of her smug, self-absorbed had just been crushed, leaving her as a broken shell of a former self. I think that's just because he doesn't want to see you get hurt. For him to get worked up like that, he obviously cares about you. Hazumi tried to reason to this girl. Yeah, I know, but that's the problem. I want him to actually respect me and be proud of me. I want him to see me as someone he can depend on. Not some useless kid's sister that can't even survive one of her own. Fucking pathetic. I don't deserve to be his sister. She seemed through her teeth, clutching the bed seat tightly. Hazumi placed his hand on Natsumi's shoulder tightly and looked on her eyes. No, that's wrong. Stop beating yourself up already. I'm sick of hearing this bullshit from you. You're being an adult. he blunted out harshly, looking down at her. What are you trying to... What? What are you talking about? She responds bluntly and shocked. Stop saying stuff like that. I don't deserve to be his sister, or I need to prove it. I'm worthy to be his sister. What about that even mean? You are his sister. End of story. And whatever you are waste or not, it deserves matter. Neither does having a talent. None of that even matters. Natsumi looked down in shame in her mind, swearing with conflicting emotion. Not full dramatic her consequences, and she felt totally lost. So what are you supposed to do then? What are you trying to say? She asked meekly. You don't need to be the world's ultimate little sister. You just have to freak your sister. You just have to be Natsumi. This is all he wants. That is, you don't have to do anything. Other than that, Azumi can cut through Natsumi's words like a razor blade. This girl sat there speechless as his words started with her. She felt like she had been sent a heavy brunt of her back. She seemed just at Hazime before he getting up and wiping her eyes. She's being to walk out of the room. I need some time to think, she said as she stopped at the door formed and she turned. Caesar had just set a heavy burden off her back. She just stared at Hazime before getting up and wiping her eyes. She began to walk out of the room. I need some time to think, she said as she stopped at the door formed. She turned to him and made him a smile. It was a weak smile hidden within a slant excuse of a visaged, but it was a small noticeable. Thanks, Hazime, she said before she slammed out of the room. Hazime needed to spend a few days in the hospital since the doctor said they would need to observe the early stages of the healing. The insurance on the permanent damage, they told Hazime, that is left former would be slightly crooked and when considered right, but the difference would not be that noticeable. He was lucky that Sato didn't bash him in the head, or he might not even be in this world anymore. On the second day he had visited, Natsumi walked into the room carrying a winter box. She brought it over him and dropped it in his chair. Here, I thought you might be sick of nasty pig slough they serve as hospital food, so I brought you this. I went through the trouble of making it, so you better not complain. Otherwise, I will punch you in the nuts, she said, grumbling as Hazime opened it. Wait, you mean you made this for Scrants? Just for me? That's actually pretty sweet of you. Hazime stopped mid-sentence because her face up turning into embarrassment. If you're not gonna fucking eat it, then I'll just give it to some hobo. She stamped and clearing at her fist angrily. Fine, geez, he said as he took out coarse chopsticks and began to dig into the fried dumplings that Timmy had cooked. Natsumi watched him with a smile nervously on her face. He took a bit of and paused for a moment, and his eyes lit up with ecstasy. Fuck, I don't know this word. This is delicious. Oh, excitement, finally. This is delicious. I had no idea that you could cook. Great job. Natsumi checked glowing red. Her cheeks glowed red again as she looked away. Whatever. Wow. Natsumi was actually nice for her and cute. Kind of like an actual girl. Hazumi couldn't help but smile smugly as he baked, dropping the lunch that Natsumi perhaps for him. He didn't get a savor see what the amount of long became, because soon the door slid open. A different girl stood in the doorway. He recognized that face away. It was Chiaki. She had something in her hand, and it was a green bento box, sort of like one Natsumi had brought. And Natsumi and her seemed annoyed. Who the hell are you? I think you're on the wrong room. We're kind of busy. Please piss off. Chiaki didn't even recognize Natsumi as she walked past her, completely ignoring her, and approached Hazume's bedside. How are you feeling, Hazumi? I heard what happened. I could believe it at first, but I am just glad you are right, she said in a concerned manner, motherly tone. Meanwhile, Natsumi was standing there in a sock in her mouth, gasped. She could tell what just happened. She totally ignored me, she thought herself dramatically. It's not a big deal. The doctor says I should be healed on time. It could have been a lot worse, so don't get to worry about it. Hazumi said with a smile, bright. You sometimes do think. Actually, Chiaki said, handing him a bento box and a handheld game. A console, she said. A console she had in her pocket. I figured you won't want something other than the hospital food, so I brought this. Also, I thought you might get bored, so I brought you a game. Console to play. Hazume accented the gift with a smile. This girl was the best. Thanks a lot, Chitaki. I think I'll be able to play it though with my arm like this. Kind of a problem, he said with a pinning grin. Chiaki shook her head. Hey, don't worry. I loaded it up with a ton of based RPG with these games. You really don't need two hands to play them. You can totally play these games with one hand, and I have done it before myself when I'm eating potato chips. It's really not that hard. Meanwhile, the Netosium stood in the background. She was speechless. While Natsumi stood in the background, she was speechless. She raised her finger to tell Chiaki off, but no words would come out of her mouth. She was standing there awkwardly watching Chiaki and Hajime having a chat. It was like she wasn't even there. It was like she was a third wheel, but she wasn't even like the third wheel on a tricycle. Those two were bikes, and she was just an old tire rotting in the gutters. What was this feeling building up in her chest? She was used to being angry, but not like this. This hurt. She felt a chill sweeping over her head, and she felt she had to say something, but she felt different than her usual boisterous self. She was feeling similarly weaker. Finally, she muttered her courage to speak. Hey! She yelled at the two of them. They stopped talking and looked over at her, and Chiaki had orange expressions on her face, and Hajime had raised an eyebrow. Natsumi stood there awkwardly for a moment. So, do you know this girl or something? What's the deal? Natsumi demanded. Oh, this is Chiaki. She's a good friend of mine who plays games with from time to time. Hajime said casually, with Natsumi blowing with cold. Play games? What the hell did he mean by that? What? What? You never mentioned her before. I didn't even think you had any friends. Natsumi blunted, rotating her fingers at Hajime as if she caught him in a lie. Chiaki pricked up as well, pointing a finger on her chin, thinking to herself, now that I think about it, I don't think you mentioned this girl to me either, she muttered before leaning down, putting her face close to Hajime. Hajime backed away a bit and looked over. What is this? He asked. Hajime, are you what they call a player? So this situation seems very natural. She asked in a curious but unmutilated tone. Natsume's jaws dropped, words about her entirety. Hazumi nearly jumped out. What? No! You got it all wrong. He yelled. Chiaki leaned back, satisfied with the answer. Oh, I see. So you two are friends, right? She asked time as she didn't ask Hazumi, she asked Natsumi. Natsumi jolted up straight up. What? Yeah, of course. We are really close friends. She stand promptly but didn't realize what she just directly Hazumi spoke her. Wait, he asked puzzled. Shut up, you! Natsumi yelled at him, grabbing her finger on the direction of Chiaki just spelled. Okay, I guess all makes sense. Hazumi isn't really the type of juggling bunch of girls, she said, with a trusting, warm smile. And she said that the door opened again. A red-haired girl with a short hair stood in the holding a box of lunch. She looked around the room awkwardly and there was a total silence. Chiaki didn't say a word. Hazumi didn't say a word. Natsumi looked like she was about to faint. Of course! Natsumi was in the one to finally break the silence. You gotta be kidding. Gotta be shitting me. Brief little while of social confusions and win announcements, Hazumi managed to climb all of them down. Luckily, he was able to convince my hero not to leave, which was her first instinct. He convinced the other girls to let him have some time to talk with my hero. Natsumi was divided against it was extremely. She was totally furious about the events when escaped and stood out of the room. Chiaki leapt on her on more understanding terms. Finally, it was just Hazumi and my hero. Really didn't expect to show up here, you know. After everything that happened, I figured I would be the last person you want to see, he said a bit bluntly. Well, you were wrong. I'm not kind of a person. I'm not coward, and regardless of what she says, she groaned, crossing her arms, and pulled her friendly cheeks a bit flustered. I actually came here to talk to you, she snorted. Thank me? For what? Hazumi asked with a look of surprise. You stupid. You know what? For stopping Sato from... You know. She rambled softly tone in a way Hazumi could seem she was holding back from crying. I really don't do that much. I wasn't what used to expect from batting practice. He tried to joke. Don't shrug this off. I bring serious, you jerk. If Sato had killed Natsumi, it would have been the end of her life too. It's just too horrible to think about. I still can't believe she would do something that crazy. I should have seen this coming. I should have done something. She stopped, running her fist against her forehead and shaked her eyes shut. The tears were already straight down her fancy cheeks. Hazumi did his best and concerned her. Sato is going to have a lot of work ahead from her. This definitely is going to make her life more difficult from her on in. But it's not the end of her. She can still recover from this and she can still have a future. But she is going to need your help, he said, placing his hand on her. My hero raped her, raising her eyes and looked up at him with snipping. But I don't even know if I can face her now. This, she choked out. You guys really close, right? She really cares about you. I don't see any reason. Hazumi trailed off as he watched my hero place her palm on her forehead, closing her eyes and taking a few deep breaths. Look, things are a bit more complicated than that, she said in a calming tone, as she was pulling herself to Hazumi and things are a bit more complicated than that. As she was pulled herself through, Hazumi thrust his head awkwardly. Yeah, I think I might know what you're talking about, he said, trying to be as a delinquent as possible. I'm not gay, alright? I'm just not, but it isn't like that for Sato, she admitted, glaring at Hazumi with a clear embarrassment. Sorry. Oh, Hazumi responded, look away, unsure of what to say. This was a completed. My hero took a deep breath, being telling Hajime the whole story. I like that Sato's feelings for me that are more than friends. Of course, I knew, and the truth is, I exposed that. I used feelings for me to keep her around all throughout middle school and even speak before she came into my life. I was picked and bullied by other girls. They were so cruel. I was so weak, but Sato was strong and cool. She stood up for me, when on no, and when no one else would. So of course I wanted her around, and I didn't take me long out our relation, and it didn't take me to realize that she wanted more out of our relationship. I just couldn't see her in that way. She respected me and never tried to force anything on me. She just stayed by my side all these years. When she could have been happier with someone else. I just leading her on for my own selfish reason. So I back what I said earlier. I'm a coward, the worst kind. My hand was running through her head. Her fingers were grabbing her skin, and as she grinned her teeth and once again was unable to hold back from crying. So you tell me, Hazumi, how am I supposed to face her now? How can I tell her the truth now? Mahuru sobbed, broken with every threat and self-hurt. Hazumi had never even imagined his kind of situation before. He did not have any kind of advice on the top of his head to offer in a case like this. He pondered for a moment and then he let out a calm sigh. There really is only one option here, isn't there? You know what it is. You need to go to her and tell her the truth. It may be rough on you, you may feel like a terrible person for it, but you don't have to choice. If you're actually your friend, then you don't have the right to just move along and let Sato spend the rest of her life full of doubts and regrets. She deserves to know the truth and she deserves closure. Mahuru blinked a few times and wiped away her remaining tears. You make it sound so obvious when you say it. It's like that, she mumbled. Look down insane, but if tell her that she is going to hate me forever. I wasn't mean Eden. I wasted entire year of our life. No, that's wrong. You guys made a great memories together. You guys have been best friends for years. There's no way that means nothing. I don't think Sato would take those years back for anything in the world. She didn't stick around just because she was attracted to you. If you tell her the truth, I know she will accept it. Hazumi said with strong conviction in his voice. My hero took in his words and then finally her motivation for lighted. She stood up. I guess I just need to sweet kick in the butt to clear my head. I just don't know how to properly process this word, but yeah, you're a great guy, Hazumi. I mean that I really have no clue how you ended. Natsumi said, "Hey, whoa," said, wait, her? We are totally not an item. Seriously." He instructed, depressing to which Mario just chuckled. She then leaned towards Hazumi, looked into his eyes in a beautiful green gaze. "Oh, is that so? Well, then, I guess he won't mind if I do this." She was leaning into and planted a kiss on Hazumi's left cheeks. Hazumi froze up and his face was flustered. Hazumi blushed slightly to the whisking moved up the runway. "See you around, Hazumi." She called a warm smile, giving him a final wave as she left a bearded bento box she made. Hajime was a bit stunned for what happened, and then he looked down into his lap where there were three bento boxes, two of them unopened. What the hell am I going to do with all three?